starting the session now. Good afternoon. I'm Nitish Khan, integrated MTech student in Electronics and Communication at IIIT-Bangalore, and
I'm Rich, integrated MTech student in Computer Science. So me and Nitish have done many hackathons together, and today he will be teaching you the basics of HTML while I'll be covering some basics of CSS. So over to Nitish.
okay. So today we'll be starting with, as I told you, basics of HTML and CSS. So before we start into basics of HTML and CSS, we have to know why we are doing it. We have to know how the web works. So we get an idea, brief idea on how the web works. So this is how the web works normally. So if you see here, almost pretty much all websites, you have users, and then you have the front end, and then you have the web server. So basically, users have to interact with the website. So users interact with the website through the front end. So whatever you see on your screen while you are browsing any site, it is the front end of the website. Okay, so now if I'll just go to any random website. So if I go to YouTube and yes, so I'll play one of the videos. So you can see this is the front end of the website. So whatever you see here, like there is a box, there is text, all of this comprises of the front end. So now let's see how we interact with this. One second, there's a lag. Okay. So users ask for the front end. So the front end of the website are certain files which are sent to you. So when you like go to a website and then hit enter like this, when you open the URL, you basically request the web server. You send the web server a request. Okay, so from the user you send web server a request that I want to access your site. Okay, so then the web server, which this part is the backend, this whole part is the backend. So the web server will send you few files to the browser, which will be interpreted in the browser, and then you can interact with the website. So now you have seen that whatever you use is front end. So what is there at the back end? So at the back end, there is the web server, which consists of file system and database. So basically this HTML and CSS files, HTML, CSS and JavaScript comprises of the front end. So these files are kept in the file system. So at the file system you will have this, and also the images, different images that has to be displayed on the website. And then you'll have something else called the database. So, like for example, like if you take about YouTube now, so now in this YouTube, you have your login details here, okay, and then you have these videos also stored. So all these are stored in the database. So database will have all the data. If you see, if you play any video, this page is the same, but then the content has to be different. Okay, so the content comes from the database. So what the web server does is, the web server will be running a backend program. So this backend program could be PHP, Python, Java, in anything. Okay, there are backend frameworks which will be running, which will take the HTML and CSS file from the file system. It will take the data from the database. It will mix that, and it will send you the final front end to you so that you can interact with this. So this is how basically the web works. So now we will be seeing the front end part of the web. So because you have to start with the front end and then only you will go with the back end. So front end might seem like very basic, but it's very crucial even if you want to learn back end. So let's see front end. So yeah. So front end comprises of three parts: HTML, CSS and JavaScript. So we have to see what are these. So this I've just explained you in this way, so that all of you can understand. So HTML is the skeleton. So you need a basic structure. So all these things in this website, if you see, just a second, it's a bit of lag. Yeah. So in this website, if you see that HTML will say that there is a text here, there is a text, and then there is like a subscribe button. There should be a search bar. There should be like there should be these text. Then there should be description here. All that will be told by the HTML. And HTML will also declare a hierarchy regarding like which is more important. Like this part is the most important part of this web page, like the title of the video. So HTML will declare all that. And then CSS. So if you see CSS, basically beautifies it. Okay, so CSS will give the aesthetic to your website. Okay, so all these design choices, that this whole thing should be black in color, the background, and then these minute details, that these edges should be rounded, and like all these should be, it has to be positioned in such a way, like this has to be occupying 75%, this has to occupy 25%. All these will be defined in CSS. Anything that comes, so this has to be in a different font than this size of the font. Everything should be decided in CSS. So CSS will decide the beauty aspect of it. And then JavaScript. JavaScript is like the brain, it's like the nervous system of the body. Like it gives, it makes your code responsive. Okay, like it makes the website responsive. Like if you see here, if I click on show more, it should show more. So all this will be decided by JavaScript. So, and also like if I go here and show transcript, it should open here. The page didn't reload if you see. When I clicked on show transcript, the page didn't reload. It's the same file that the server had sent before. So that is running at the side. So since that opened, this has to open. All this is JavaScript. Okay. So now that you have a vague understanding of what the front end comprises of, we'll get into HTML first. We'll get into the beauty part later. That is the CSS. So before starting HTML, you have to remember a golden rule while you are writing any HTML code, that all kinds of styling should be done in CSS. No styling should be done in HTML. So HTML gives you certain tools to actually style. Okay, like it gives you things to make it aesthetic and all, but you shouldn't be using that, because then you will get it's just not a good practice. So just remember this. So HTML is solely for structure and the search engine optimization. So anybody knows the full form of HTML? Okay, so yeah. So that's what we'll be starting with, hypertext markup language. So yeah, hypertext is basically the hyperlinks that you click, like you click and you go to other pages, so that is hypertext. Markup language says that this language is to structure your website and not to do anything else. So markup language basically gives a structure. It's not a programming language. There are other markup languages like Markdown, then LaTeX. All that is for structuring different texts. This is for structuring the web text. So hypertext markup language. Okay. So and we learn it along with search engine optimization, like how to so basically your search engine. So your Google, like when you go to Google and search for website, so Google searches for all the websites, and Google search engine will mostly read the HTML text to come to know what is there inside your website. So when you write your HTML clearly and you make important things come properly, then your search engine will understand what is there on the website, and it will come up in the relevant search result. So when you write the code, when you write code for your website, when you write HTML for your website, you can take care that it is optimized for the search engine. So we'll see. So let's get started in the HTML. So HTML basically the code. This is the boilerplate code. So this has to be there in all HTML files. So most of you, I told you to you should have VS Code. VS Code is a code editor, so it helps you edit all files easily. So I'm just creating a file called gdsc.html. .html is the extension for HTML files. So and then when VS Code gives you some convenient things, instead of each time typing the boilerplate, you can just use an exclamation mark, just put an exclamation mark and hit enter. So you will get the boilerplate ready. Okay? So if you see the boilerplate here, there is so these things, these angular bracket things that you see, these are called tags in HTML. Okay? So most of the tags, you have to open it and close the tag to tell the web browser where does that part end. So you see, so HTML document tag opens here and closes at the end of the document. And then it consists of two main parts. One is the head and the other is the body. So body contains everything. Body contains everything that you see on the website. which you see physically. When you open a website and see, everything is there in the body. What is there in the head? So we'll see head, all about head. So if you see head now, head contains this thing, this up at the tab it comes, right? What is the title of it? So that is the title of the website. So that comes here. If you see here, this title name of this HTML document is document. So now I can just change this to GDSC and then I can and also now in the testing environment I want to like see how this website is working and like I want to display this website. So I will go here, go live. So this starts a live server in VS Code. This is the feature of VS Code. So you will get so it will open up. So it will open up your website. Okay. So this website gdsc.html is just this much. It's empty. The body is empty. But you can see the title has come there up, GDSC. So whatever you give in the title will come in the tabs starting. Okay, now let's take a look at some of the more important stuff. So here you have link. So in head you can put link tag. So if you put the link tag, you basically link the CSS and JavaScript file. Okay, when you learn CSS and JavaScript, they will teach you how to link your CSS and JavaScript. So you can use this, and HRDF basically tells where your JavaScript or where your CSS or JavaScript file is, and then what is it? What's the relation? It's a style sheet. Actually, CSS is cascading style sheets. So this is a style sheet. So you have to link the files. So that is linked. So Bridge will talk on that later. And then we have the metadata. So metadata is not compulsory, but you can put any number of metadata you want. Okay, metadata is data that you give to both your search engine and your browser. Okay, so search engine and browser uses metadata to figure out what is there in the website. So if you see metadata character set UTF-8, okay, so this character set declares that the encoding of all the text in this document is in UTF-8. So there are different character sets available in the in computer. So this is the 8-bit encoding which is commonly used. So it's just a common practice to put this at the top, and then you can see other things that you can include in metadata is you can put meta description and then the description, meta name description, then content of the description. So what does description do? So when you search something in Google, let's say I search GDSC. So now for this website, I'll just magnify it a little bit. Okay. So now you can see there is a description here, right? So this description, you can define what you have to display here by the description tag. Not this, once again. By the description tag. So here, meta description, and then you put the content, then that will come as the description. And then you have the refresh rate. So if you would have used the cricket apps or like have you used the cricket score app? You see that keeps reloading, right? So how do you think the browser knows that I have to reload this site every like 10 seconds, 20 seconds? So for that you use meta refresh tag. So if you use this and then put the number of seconds here, it will reload that many seconds. So I'll just show you this. So just a second. Yeah, so I'll just add this to our file and then you can see that it will refresh. So I'll set that it should refresh every 2 seconds. So you can see here, it refreshes every 2 seconds. At the top if you see, it refreshes it. Can you see that? Maybe I should, yeah, you can see it refreshes it. If I show it, you understood, right? It's refreshing every 2 seconds. So this is why you should set the refresh rate. If your website has to be, like if your content is going to change at every time, okay? So then if you, so basically whenever it refreshes, you request the server again for data. So so you will send the updated data. So that's how you put the refresh rate. And then you can see the viewport. Okay, so viewport basically will tell that how like how magnified your website should be. Like when you open, it should be of initial scale 1. All this is optional, but you can add it so that it is optimized for all the browsers and your search engines. Okay, so this is a brief introduction on the head tag. Now let's go up to the part where everything else is. I mean the text. Okay, so now we are going to the body. Okay, so in body, the first thing that we have to see is text. Okay, so for text, the normal tag that we use is the paragraph tag. Okay, so we have to start a p tag. It's case. So I have to start a p tag and end a p tag. VS Code will complete both the sides for you. When you just start a p tag and hit enter, it will complete it. And let's say I'm putting hello all. So and then I will do this. And here you can see there is hello all. Okay. So now the thing is, at this point, you should never be thinking about the style of this. You shouldn't think that it should be center aligned, it should be in different color, it should be bigger. These things shouldn't come to your mind. All that should be handled in CSS. You have to put only the content in HTML. Okay? So, let's just proceed. So, with paragraph tags, you have some things that you can use. EM stands for emphasis, I stands for italics, strong is again bold, but B is also bold. Let's see how this happens actually. So, if you use EM tag, and I'll just put hello inside EM. So, yeah, you can see, can you see it actually? I'm just zooming it in with my mouse, okay. So you can see hello has been made italic, okay? And if I again go here and make this italic instead of EM, I'm making this italic I, that also, nothing has changed yet, okay? So that also is keeping it italic. So what is this? Why there are two things and should be using, what you should be using? Now I'll show you bold also. If you use, strong, so if you use strong, that makes it bold. So, yeah, it made it bold. Okay, but then if you use B, that also makes it bold. So, if you see, nothing has, there's a lag. Okay, yeah. So, if you see, nothing has changed. Okay, it is still bold. So, should you be using this to actually make it italic or bold? The answer is no. These, first of all, italic and bold are styling tools that you shouldn't be using at all. Forget it after this session, never use it. But emphasis and strong has its use. Okay, emphasis is to tell the search engine or the website that this part of your code, this part of the website is very important. So, for example, if you check the website, if you check YouTube, then basically you can put your description in emphasis because there is so many other things to the website. Like if you see there are these side things which are there here. How will your search engine know that this part of the website, like this part of the description, like this is what is the main part that comprises this website. So this thing won't be known by the search engine, right? So that's what you use emphasis for. You emphasize that this is very important. And then strong is an even harder emphasis. Like it's very, very important. So basically you put everything that is too important that describes your website in strong. But now you would say that strong makes it bold, so that would look bad. You can always change all that using CSS. Okay? So strong and emphasis should be used to highlight which part of your text file is important, but then you can later change how it looks through CSS. So you have to use this carefully. And then next we have the headings. Okay, HTML provides you with these heading tags. So I'll just create all the heading tags here. So that you can go from H1 all the way to H6. Okay, so I'll just create 2, 3. So I'll do H1, H4 and H6 maybe. Yeah. Yeah. So if you see this, it would have displayed it in different like sizes. Okay, but if you are thinking again that these things are used for what size you want, you should never be doing this. A lot of people use headings based on what size you want, but that is not the use of headings. Headings are used to declare your hierarchy. So basically, you can put more than one H1 tag. It won't object you from doing it, but there should be only one H1 tag for one website. Okay, it's a standard thing. Okay, it is your heading. It's the most important thing. And then you take the subheading at the second level. So I will say this is the GDSC session, and then I would say that this is HTML part, and then this is the CS. I should put this at H2. Even though if I want it smaller, then later I should change it using CSS. I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't be using any lower thing without using the higher thing. So I will use CSS. So HTML and CSS is part 1 and then part 2. And then inside, even though if I want the text to be small inside HTML, I shouldn't be using H4 or H5. I should be using H3, and then tell that it is it's the head part of it. Okay. So like I'm telling this head and then body. So I'm basically creating a website. So I should declare it based on the hierarchy. That's how that search engine will know what exactly your website is doing and what is its contents. If you if you randomly put anything based on the size that you want, that's not a correct practice. Okay, so that's how we do this. And then now let's go. So we have finished the headings. So now let's go to entities. So there are like hundreds of entities. So entities are like mostly special characters that you want. Okay, there are hundreds of entities. Let's say I'm using a website and I want to show like body tag here. So I use a p tag, and then in that I will explain body tag. So I am typing body here, but then now HTML thinks it's a tag. Okay, even if I remove the closing tag, it will still think this is a tag. It's not a text. So if you see that body thing hasn't come here at all, so it still thinks it's a tag. Okay, so for it to for me to escape this, I have to use entities. Okay, so entity it has to be started with the and symbol, and then I should say less than is NT. So the codes are available over the net. If you just search HTML entities, you'll come to know. So then I can do so this is less than, and then I can go this side, and then I can make greater than GT, and then now you can see it has come here. So this is how you display it if you are using a character that is special for HTML. Okay, so for that, and I have included some common things that you might use. Copies for copyrights. Okay, so at the end you might be using copyrights. So you can use and copy, and then you can see here the copyright symbol. So this is all you will be using in every website. So it's good to know this, that you have to use and copy. Different symbols are available. You can check over the internet what and all is there. And then there is the lorem end. Okay, so if you like most of the websites, when you're designing a website, you won't have its content ready with you. Okay, you will be designing it for someone else. They will give the content later. So now you want to put some content and look at it, and so that like how is the structure and all. So for that you can generate random text by telling you can just type LOREM, and then after that the number of words you want. So I'll just go now for 80 words. And then I hit enter, so it will generate random words, and then you can see here, I have something to see in the website. So you generate random words like this. Now let's see something else. So these two words, okay, so some word that starts with P and some word that starts with S. Let's say those are some words that you have to always keep it together. Okay, like based on the screen size, it shouldn't go to the next line. You don't want these to be separated. Okay, so then what you do is you use ampersand NBSP. Okay, so where are those words? The word that starts with P and starts with S. So you don't want these words to be separated at any cost. So you don't give a space in between them, and then you type and NBSP, and then you close it with this, and then you save this, and then if you see here, this thing will always be together. on any website, on any device, like however small or however big it is, these things won't be separated. Okay, so this is some of the important entities that I thought is very important to be covered. So those are entities. You can Google other entities now. So next, let's talk about hyperlinks. Okay, hyperlinks are very important part of HTML because all over the web you click and go to the other part of the websites. So any hyperlink is defined by an A tag or the anchor tag. Okay, so I want to make this head clickable. Okay, so if you want to make anything clickable, so I want to make HTML clickable. Let's say I want to make HTML clickable. I have to enclose this with an A tag. So I open an A tag, close an A tag, and then I put this in. So now this part HTML is clickable, but if I click it, where should it go? Okay, so that part is defined by the href attribute. Okay, so I should put href equal to the link to the place where I have to go. Okay, so now I'll create another file here, say HTML tutorial.html. Okay, so this file, so I want, like, if I click hello, if I click on HTML, it should go to the HTML website. So I have a main website GDSE. From there, it should go to the HTML page. So to do that, I have to declare the path in href. Okay, so how will I declare the path? You have to declare relative path. Okay, so you are in a folder called session, and the gdsc.html and html.html is in the same folder. So you can declare a relative path telling html tutorial.html. So now it has been linked here. So I'll just put some basic text here. So I have opened here and I'm telling, So I'm just telling this is a paragraph tag. I'll just use a paragraph tag and tell this is HTML page. Okay, so now anyways it's refreshing every 2 seconds. It's still on. So if I check this HTML, if I click on this HTML, it goes to the HTML page. I put HTML here. Okay, so it goes to the HTML page. You can link this to pictures. You can link this to anything you want. Okay, so I have a picture here called greyful.png. So instead of this, I can put here greyful.png, and then now I have to go back to that website. Okay, yeah. So now if I'm here and then I click on HTML, it will go to this picture. Okay, so this is this grey color picture. So it will open the picture. But mostly, do you want people to open a picture? You don't want it, right? Like you want people to download the picture or download a file. So how would you tell the browser that when somebody clicks on the link, you should download the file? So for that, you will include your download. Okay, after href, you will put download, and you have to leave this empty. Then you save. I'll go back here, and then I'll just refresh it again. So now if I click on HTML, it downloaded it. If you saw, it went to the downloads here. So Greyful came here in my downloads. Okay, so it got downloaded and I can see it here. So this is how you include the download attribute to it. Okay, so now download is clear, and then let's come to target blank. Okay, so sometimes you open you click on some link and it goes to a different tab, right? You don't want this tab to be gone. Okay, so for that you use target blank attribute. So I'll just show it to you here. This time what I'll do, I'll just create another folder in which I'll put CSS. Okay, that folder name is CSS, and in that I'll create a website name called CSS tutorial.html. Okay, so I have this here, and basically in my GDSE website, I'm telling here I will create an anchor tag, href, and then I also put target blank. Okay, if I do that, and then I have to close the anchor tag after whatever I have finished. Yeah, so if I do this, and then in the href, where is this file CSS tutorial relative to your thing? So you are here, it's in some other folder which is there inside your folder. So you will put CSS/CSS tutorial. Okay, and in this also I'll just create some random thing. So I'll just put, again, sorry, I'll just put in the body CSS. Okay, so now from the GDSE website, okay, so if I see here the CSS has become clickable. If I go here, it opens in a new tab. So this tab is still open. Okay, so GDSE tab is still open. It has opened my CSS page in a new tab. Okay, so this is how you open it in a new tab. And also, if you want to, now let's say I want to come back from here, so I'll just create a back button. Okay, so I'll create an anchor tag with an href. And this href, I want to go back to my GDSE website. But now this file is in CSS folder. So I have to go one level up to the session folder, and then I have to go to the GDSE.html. So to do that, to go one level up from your directory, you use double dot, and then you put a slash. So now I have gone one level up. So now you can see I have my GDSE.html here. I can enter. So now this has, now we are at one level up. So I will create a back button here. And then, yeah. So basically I have a back here. I can click and it goes back here. So this is how we do the anchoring in HTML. So you have to create like this, and then you can also, like in a href, if you put HTTPS and then you want to go to some other website which is there in the World Wide Web, not in your directory, not in your folder, then you use HTTPS, then slash whatever website name you want, and then you want to mail someone, like you want the mail app to open, you put mail to and then you put the mail ID in the href. You can do that in the href tag. Instead of putting this, just put whatever is there here and then put the mail ID or the website that you want to go to. So this is all about hyperlink. Now let's quickly cover images and images, lists and buttons. Okay, so images, to add any image to your website, you have to use the image tag. So I'll just add image to the GDSE website. So if I have to use the image tag, just remember that image tag doesn't have any closing tag. So then it has an href, okay, just like anything else. And then href, you have to put, href is the link to the image. So you have to put, I want to display this gray full.png. Yeah, so I'm done with this. And then, so now I can see here that there will be a, just a second. Sorry, I have to use the src instead of href. So here it's source, okay, not link. So you have to use source, and then after that you would have the image displayed here. Now again, this thing you shouldn't worry about whether how long is the image, where should it be, where is the alignment. This and all you shouldn't be worrying while you're writing an HTML. In HTML you just say image is there. Okay. In CSS you have to decide how long is it, how big is it, where it should be in a grid. All that should be decided in CSS. HTML you just include it, and then after that you can give the just a second. Yeah. After that you have to put the alternate text. Okay. So you have to put alt and then add the alternate text. In the alternate text, you have to give a detailed description of what is there in your picture, because alternate text is for blind has two uses. One, it is for blind people. Blind people use a screen reader to read it and read any website. And when they use a screen reader, the screen reader reads out the alternate text to them. So if you shouldn't leave it blank or like put something that is not the accurate description. So you have to describe this as a picture that has. So I'll just put it's a simple gray image. Okay, so you have to give a detailed description of whatever that can be. And also, the second use is what the name suggests. If there is a mistake in the file, let's say something happened and that file is not there, like the image file is not there. I make a mistake in, like I made 3 L's, so this file doesn't even exist. Okay, so now it will display the alternate text instead of the image. So I have to refresh. Yeah. Yeah. So if you see, it shows that if there is an image, but it's not there because my URL is wrong, and then it will show the alternate text that it's a simple gray image. So by chance your image fails, it will be useful for you. So that's why you should be using the alternate text properly. And also for search engines, it's easier for the search engines to read your alternate text and understand about what's there in the picture than actually processing the image. So you should give detailed description of what's there in your image. And then button is very normal. Okay, so like it's about all the buttons that you click. Okay, so I can just say button and then type button. Okay, so and then I will say here like. Okay, so if you like the session, just type the click the. So this is the clickable button. Okay, so you all the subscribe button, like button, share button, everything are buttons. Okay, so you describe the button. Again, you shouldn't think about how this button should look like, what color, what should be the color of the text. All that will be decided in CSS. So now you just declare that there is a button. Okay, and then lists. Okay, lists we'll cover later if we have time because there is something more important than lists. You can learn about lists later. We'll cover the next one now. So div and span. Okay, so now let's talk about div and span. Div and span are very important to structure your website even more. Okay, so let's say I wanna like in this website. Okay, so I want to keep some things separately. Like if you see this thing, this side part. Okay. This thing is a separate part. So this is the sidebar. Okay, you call this a sidebar, then this is a separate thing. So you declare this inside a container. Okay, so div and span are container elements. So you declare this inside a container. All the HTML things, all the HTML text inside the part, you declare it as a container. So there are two types of container, div and span. So div basically takes up the whole page. Okay, like left end to right end, it will take up as the division, as the container element. You can change that in CSS, but by default that's what it takes, the whole thing. So that's called a block element. And then span is inline element. Okay, inline element means it takes up the space that is required. Okay, so that are inline elements and block elements. So you can take, so division is, it will take the whole thing. Span will take the how much ever. Whatever content is there inside that needs, that much it will take. Generally, just use div. Okay, so you can like use CSS to manipulate how you wanna keep the divs. So you put different parts of your website in different divs. Okay, so you see here if I had to build this website, I would put this thing. This thing is the navigation bar at the start. So I put that in a different div. I will put this description and all in a different div. I'll put comments in a different div. And then I will put this transcript part in different divs. So all that will be in different divs. Those are containers. Well, this is separate parts. Okay? So, because in an HTML file, you will write everything on a flow. Like you won't, like there won't be explicit divisions between them. So that's why you have to put div main content, sidebar. So you open a div, close a div. You can see here, you open a div, then close a div here. This is the main content, and then the sidebar, you open the div and close the div. So this is how division works. And then now let's manipulate our grades. So this is, I'm going to tell you something fun. Okay. So there is a tool called inspect element in Chrome. How many of you know about it? Okay. So then I don't need to show a lot. Okay. So basically, inspect element will allow you to like any website you open, and then you give inspect element. It will give you the HTML part and the style. You can see CSS part and the JavaScript part. Basically, the whole front end will be available to you. So you can do all this. Okay, and then like you can check whatever you want. The HTML and CSS is there with you. So you can play around with it, and then you can like manipulate whatever you want in it. So that will be just in your content. Okay. So when you refresh, everything will go back to normal. So basically, if you want to change anything in a website, okay, so I'll just for fun, okay, so I got a bad grade, I don't want to see this, so I can go here, inspect, so and then I can just so I have to click on the specific part. If you click on the specific part, it will go to that part of the code. So I'll inspect here, and then you can go to that part. You can open whatever parts you want, and then you can change whatever you like. But the thing is, when you refresh it, when you refresh the page, it will again go back to the original one because server will send you the data that it has. So this is developer tools. So you want to change something and learn something, then you can take any HTML file that comes to you using the inspect element. Okay, so that's how we finish the HTML part very quickly. So this is a very brief introduction about HTML. So now we can move to CSS.
Hello. Yeah, so that was a very brief introduction to HTML by Nitesh. And if you look at a website that is plain HTML, it looks very ugly. Like you're probably browsing other websites on Chrome, and you think that a HTML website looks nothing like this. So wait, let me just show you an example. Yeah, this is a website that I had coded. It's a basic landing page, so I just made it to practice some HTML and CSS. So if I go ahead and remove the CSS here, it will look very ugly. So let me go ahead and do that. This is the line that links the CSS file to the HTML, so I'm going to go and remove it. And when I save this, and I go back, so this is what that landing page looks like without all the CSS. There's random pictures and it looks very cluttered, right? So yeah, this is where CSS comes into play, and a lot of people find CSS very boring and not fun at all, but trust me, it is very important if you want to build good looking websites. So let's move ahead and look, this is the basic syntax of any CSS line. So at the top you have the selector that basically selects the HTML elements. They could be divs or the anchor tag, the headings. So you need to select that element out of the page to add styles to it, right? You need to know what you're adding styles to. So that part is the selector. And after that, once you have the selector, you know what element you want to apply styles to. You will choose properties such as font weight, font size, color, display, stuff like that. So these are the styles you want to add to that particular element. Could be background color. And once you have that, you just assign the value to it, like color red or font weight 700. So yeah, that was the basic syntax. So yeah, let's talk more about selectors and properties. So yeah, so there's this tutorial that I've made on CodePen. It's an online tool to visualize basic HTML and CSS without typing on the boilerplate. So yeah, so these are basic divs with some text in them. And on the right side we have the CSS. This part is the CSS, and basically if you look at this part, it says choose all divs on this page and give them font family so and so, background color blue and color white. So this type of selector is called a type selector. It chooses elements based on the type that they are. So this will go ahead and pick all the divs and assign these properties to them. So if you can see this paragraph tag down here, this one was not colored blue because it's not a div. So yeah, that was one type of selectors. Now you can also choose selectors based on something called classes. So if you look at this section, this div has an attribute called class. So what class is, you can basically group elements on HTML and assign properties to them together at once. So it basically increases the reusability of your code. So you can have multiple divs with that alert text and then just go here to the CSS and then have selected based on the class name. So here this is called a class selector. It starts with this thing, a small full stop symbol here. So this is how you select based on class name. So what this does is all the elements in HTML that have class alert text, those will be colored red. So you can see that the text color is red. It looks ugly, but yeah, this is how you select elements based on class. Now you can also do ID selectors, which are like similar to class-based selectors, but the difference between ID and class is that you can have only like all the IDs in your page must be unique, and you can't have like multiple divs with the same ID or anything. So these are used to uniquely identify a particular element and assign a style to it. So nobody really uses. I mean, yeah, people use it, but it's the most common selector that we'll be using is the class-based selector. So that was all about selectors. So now let's talk about some properties that you might want to change. So for example, these divs have background color blue. So if we could like, if you wanted to change this thingy, we can make it any color we want. So we could make all of them red, and all of them have become red. And sometimes we might not know the name of the color we want, but like we will be getting the hex value of the color. So when we want to do that, you can select the color based on the hex value. So this FF00FF over here, that is the hex code for pink. So that will give all the divs pink color. Now similarly, there is font size that increases or changes the font size. So I can make it 100 or 100 pixels. So that will change the font size to 100 pixels. So like Nitish was saying, you shouldn't be using H1, H2, H3, H4 to change the size of the thing. You should be using font size in CSS to do all that. So yeah, that was font size. Again, font weight is, you can change the font weight, make it bold. So something became bold here. Yeah, so all of this has become bold now. So this is how you make it bold. You don't use the bold or the strong tags in HTML to make something look bold. You use the CSS to do all that. So yeah, we can do that too, and we can do things like aligning the text to the center. So again, all the text here has been aligned to the center, but you can see that this paragraph tag is not gone because we have applied this only to the divs. Like over there on the top, we are selecting only divs. So all the text in all the divs has gone to the center, but none of this paragraph wasn't affected. So that was the use of selectors. So yeah, we are done with selectors now. And how do you? So that was on CodePen. CodePen adds all the CSS to the HTML for you. But if you're doing it in VS Code, so how do you do that? Like, how do you add your CSS to your HTML? So for that, let me go ahead and show you on VS Code. So this is a basic HTML code that I've written with. It's boilerplate. Again, it has some paragraphs and some divs. And yeah, so basically there are three ways of adding CSS to HTML. First is external CSS. This is the one you will be using most often. And then there's internal CSS and there's inline CSS. So in external CSS, you will be writing all your CSS in a separate file. You can call it anything. I've called it style.css. And then you will be putting it in your, you'll have a link tag and you put it in your head. And in the link tag, you're going to specify that it's a style sheet, and you'll send the location of the relative path of the CSS file. So this will basically tell your browser that there is a style.css file that contains all the CSS that needs to be applied to this page. So this is the main way that people usually add CSS to their files. But another way of doing it would be in internal CSS, which is basically instead of putting a link. So if I go ahead and remove this slide completely, and excuse me. Yeah, so this is the website, and you can see that right now there is not styles. Wait, just a sec. Yeah, so right now it's just plain HTML, a couple of divs and a paragraph. So yeah, now if I want to add CSS, this is called the way. If I can make a style tag basically and put all the CSS inside of it. So this is called internal CSS. So instead of linking the CSS through a separate file, I can put them in a style tag and then add all the CSS again in the head. So this is also another way of doing it, and all the CSS come up here. So, but the disadvantage of doing this is if you have multiple files that require the same CSS, you'll have to go ahead and do this in all the HTML files. So that's not a good idea. Instead of that, you can just have one CSS file and link it to all the HTML files. So that's why this is not used that often. Now the third way of doing it is inline CSS, where you go to the particular HTML tag that you want to add the style to, and you assign the style there itself. So if you look at this paragraph tag here, it says I'll put a style attribute and then color white, background color black, and then the text of the thing. So this is used to when you want to change the style of only one particular element, so that it doesn't affect the other elements of that type. So this is used fairly commonly, but again, people tend not to use it. So that changed the thing of the paragraph also. So yeah, those were the ways of adding CSS to HTML. And coming up next, we have the box model. So yeah, basically everything on your web page is a box. Even if you see something circular, that's a lie. It's still a box. And so let me show that on CodePen. So I have I have a H1, I have a paragraph, and I have a list. So this is a list. We have to skip it due to time constraints, but you can basically have lists on your web page. And after that, there is a div with a paragraph inside. This is the paragraph. So when I go ahead and add borders, so I'm going to add borders to everything. So over here on top, there's a star. So this basically selects all the elements on the page and it adds a border to them. So 2 pixels, that's the thickness of the border, and then it's solid, so it's a straight line, and the color is red. So you can see that everything is a box, and everything is enclosed in boxes basically. So yeah, what we need to do when we want to move things around, like how Nitish was showing the YouTube page, right? In there also everything was boxes, but when you want to manipulate their layout and you want something to be at a particular place on the web page, you need to basically play around with these boxes. So to explain these boxes, there's 3 main components that make up your box. There's actually 4. One of them is the content itself, and then there's 3 other ones. It's called margin, border, and padding. So let me just comment this real quick. Yeah, so now if you look at what I've done is this div, it has a class name module, right? So I've gone ahead and I've selected the module class, and then to that I'm adding padding, background, border, and margin. So right now you know about background. So the background of this is white, and the body this is the body tag that was there in the HTML, and I've added the gray background to it. So right now the body is grey, but like this div has a background of white. So basically, if I go ahead and select inspect on this, so you can basically see the entire box model here, and yeah. So this part over here in the middle, this is the content. This is basically the content, the text inside the paragraph. So apart from between the content and the div, there is something called padding. So the padding is used to basically provide space between the content and the border. So if this space that we get, it comes through padding. If I go ahead and remove that right now, if I go ahead and remove this padding, this line itself, you can see that this space is going to disappear. All the space has disappeared. So this was the border, and the space between the content and the border comes by adding a padding. So let me put that back. So so padding is the innermost section after the content. After that comes the border. Border is self-explanatory. So it's basically you can set the border to whatever thickness you want, and then add specific styles to it. And yeah, after that comes margin. So yeah, margin is basically everything outside your border. So if you want to space things out, like on your web page, like if you want to put space between different sections of your web page, you do that using margin. So for example, over here, margin is added like so basically there are 4 values for margin, right? So this one is the top margin, this is the right margin, this is the bottom margin, and this is the left margin. So this basically adds 10 pixels here, 30 pixels to the right of it, 50 pixels below it, and 70 pixels this side. So that basically allocates that much space on your web page and says nothing else can go here. Like this is the space that is blocked by this div through margin. So yeah, those were some basic concepts that we could only cover today. We really hope that we could cover more, but we had only 1 hour, unfortunately. So in the next session, we will be teaching you guys more about Flexbox, like basically how you align things properly on your web page, building nav bars, and they will also be covering Bootstrap, which is a very popular front-end